Good afternoon, everyone. All right, it's great to see everyone here this afternoon. Oh, it's morning. I'm sorry, y'all know Commissioner Hambrick gets me on that. She always says if it's 5 o'clock, it's afternoon. So we 6 o'clock, we know it's evening. So let's say good morning, everyone. All right. The Clayton County Board of Commissioners special call board meeting for public hearing, HB 581 this is our second hearing, is now called to order. The date is February 18th, 2025, and the time is 11 o'clock a.m. We will do our Pledge of Allegiance, and then we will have a moment of silence after that. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. At this time, we will have a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you. All right, at this time, I need a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
All right, can I get a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it and the motion passes. Next, we will have, before we start our public comment for public hearing HB 581, we will hear from our CFO, Stacy Merritt.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and Board of Commissioners. We are coming to you today to talk again about House Bill 581, and I'm going to let our financial advisor, Ed Wall, come up and kind of talk about the origins and what it means, and then I'll kind of come up afterwards and discuss the impact.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
How y'all doing? House Bill 581 was a bill passed by the Georgia legislature the last week of the session in 2024. It was 4 separate bills collapsed into one bill. 581 is 27 pages long. It's dense. It's hard to understand. Folks all over the state have been trying to figure out what it's like, what it means. A lot of folks are still working on it, and there's different opinions all over the state about what it does. I encourage GMA, the Georgia Municipal Association, the Association of County Commissioners, and the Georgia School Boards Association to all get together in a room and figure out what does 581 do and come up with a PowerPoint presentation for all the cities and the counties and the schools. And it took them to October 3rd from April to get that done. And there's on there, each of them's got a website. It's got a 46-page joint presentation and has a lot of details. I synthesized it down to about a 3-page memo. And House Bill 581 does 3 things. One is it creates a floating local option, a floating homestead exemption tied to inflation. The second thing is a floating local option sales tax that you can avail yourselves of if you stay in the floating homestead exemption. And then the third thing is it simplifies, in quotation marks, how you go about levying the property taxes and the rollback rates. And you can see here I've listed the 3 things that it does. Is establishes a floating homestead exemption tied to inflation, the new floating local option sales tax, and simplifies the process for calculating the rollback rates. The second bullet up at the top, 581 required a constitutional amendment. It was put before the voters of the state of Georgia in November of 24, and it passed with 63% of the vote. About 3 million voted in favor and about 1.8 million voted no. 581 took effect on January 1, and everybody, 535 cities, 180 school systems, and 159 counties were automatically opted in to 581. In order to opt out, you had to do it by March the 1st, and you had to have 3 public hearings. The law was very specific as to what had to go in the ad in the local paper in order to have the 3 public hearings. And the ad says that you intend to opt out. City of Hampton, City of Jonesboro intends to opt out. And then you have the 3 public hearings. One thing I want to tell you all as commissioners and the residents, no decision has been made as to whether to opt in or opt out. The purpose of these public hearings is for me and Stacy to educate you all as commissioners about the bill, educate the citizens, then you all to hear from the citizens about 581. And so it's real important that the ad makes it appear that you all have already made the decision, but no decision has been made yet. One of the things that it was important to you all commissioners, and you asked me and Stacy to provide pros and cons, and that was one of the things that I thought that was good about the way y'all wanted us to handle the presentation. What does 581 mean to a potential homeowner? And so Stacy and I took three values of houses: $250,000 house, a $500,000 house, and a $750,000 house. Did it say 750 or 700? 750. I got me a new pair of glasses. Maybe I can see it. Oh, you're the best. Thank you, Mr. IT man. And so all of us get 2 bills related to our taxes each year. You get an assessment notice from the tax assessor in March or April each year, and it tells you whether your home went up in value or not. And then in the fall, around September or October, you get a actual tax bill. And so this deals with the assessment. House Bill 581 deals only with the assessment. It doesn't deal with the levying of the property taxes. So let's start the first example, a $250,000 house. The tax assessor sends you out a bill in March or April and says the value of your house went up 6%. And so now the value of your home is $265,000. You have appeal rights. A resident can appeal that assessment. If they disagree with it, it goes to the Board of Equalization. If they disagree with how that is adjudicated, then they can go to the Superior Court. House Bill 581 says that the value of that home, if it is a homestead home, what does that mean? That you live in it full time, it is your full-time residence, and you've applied for a homestead exemption. It says that if you have a homestead property, the value of the assessment can never go higher than the previous year's inflation. And so Stacy and I use this 3% number because that is the inflation rate for 2024. And so if 581 is in effect, that home for tax purposes can only be valued at $257,500. The difference between that $257,500 and the actual assessment of $265,000 is $7,500. That goes into that homeowner's homestead exemption. And it is added to each year. It never goes down. And as long as that resident stays in that home, it is their primary resident, and they qualify a homestead exemption, that amount will stay there and go up every year if the assessment goes higher than inflation. When that resident sells that house or they pass away and it goes to their heirs, then all that homestead exemption is wiped out and it starts back over at whatever the fair market value is. What does that mean as far as tax savings? The general fund millage rate is 15.266 mils, so that resident would save $114 that particular year from the general fund, would save $31 at the fire fund because that's 4.146 mils, so the total savings for that 1 year would be $146. If you would, sir, go back, let's do the $500,000. If you had a $500,000 home, the 6% reassessment would bring it to $530. Inflation was only 3%, so it would only be allowed for tax purposes to go to $515. The difference in those numbers is $15,000 times those millage rates, all the way to the right, please, sir. The savings there is $291, and then the $750,000 homes, the savings would be $437. So that is a pro to 581. Staying opted in gives the county and the cities in the county opportunity to have a floating local option sales tax. You all in the county have a local option sales tax that was instituted back in the 90s. You use that to reduce property taxes dollar for dollar. A FLOST is just like that lost. It's no new revenues to the county. that'll help you manage the services. It just replaces property taxes dollar for dollar. It's levied in 0.05 increments. So if you think of a 1% sales tax, MARTA's 1 cent, your SPLOST is 1 cent, the school board has 1 cent. The FLOST can be levied in 0.05 increments. So if you think of the 1 cent as a full dollar, it can be levied in nickel increments. The county, together with the cities, will decide what percentage they would want to raise that. One of the reasons you had to have a constitutional amendment last year is it had to raise the cap for sales tax from 8 cents to 9 cents in order to accommodate this. It can only be levied in 5-year terms. The local option sales tax goes on forever and is renegotiated every 10 years, and it only stops if the cities and the county can't agree on how to split it. Here it's a 5-year term. It must be approved by the voters. The earliest you can put it to the voters is this November, and you have to have an intergovernmental agreement with all the cities on how to share the money. The state law talks about sharing it based on population. And if you wanted to renew it, you'd have to go back to the local legislative delegation and ask them to pass a bill authorizing you to renew it after 5 years. It has to be signed by the governor, and then it's put back to the voters. That's one part about this I don't like. If in year 5, for some reason, you don't get a legislation to renew it, in year 6, you'll have to raise property taxes by the amount by which the sales tax had been substituting property tax, and you'll have a big tax increase that year. I wish the FLOST went for a longer period of time. The last bullet point is very important. FLOST is not available if the county or any city opts out of the floating homestead exemption. And so nearly every city that I'm aware of in Clayton are having hearings just like you. I don't think any decision has been made except for Jonesboro. I think Jonesboro did decide to opt in last week. The others haven't decided yet. But you'll need every city to opt in order to be able to have a FLOST. What is my conclusion about 581? It's a decision by the Clayton Board of Commissioners. It's only your tax. It doesn't affect any of the cities, doesn't affect any of the school boards, any residents here. They would need to go to their hearings to talk about it. I know that the school board has already opted out. They had a 20 mil cap on their millage rate, and they're at 19.6, so they felt like they could not lose any revenues. Stacy will talk to you about the cons of 581 and what it means to the revenues to the county. It's your decision to make alone. You're automatically opted in, and you have to have these 3 hearings, and you make a decision after the final hearing as to whether you want to opt out or not. If you do opt out, Chuck Reed, your county attorney, has to take a resolution and file it with the Secretary of State's office by March the 1st. Decisions made after the 3rd hearing. Once opted in, you can never get out. So that's real important to me. You all have homestead exemptions, and it's a local homestead exemption. And if you ever wanted to change it, you go to the legislature, ask them to authorize you to put a measure before the voters, and the voters can opt to change it. With House Bill 581, unless the legislature on its own makes a decision statewide, you can never opt out of it. If you're opted out, the county can ask the legislature and the voters for a homestead exemption, including one like 581 if you wanted to, and it preserves your local control. And the last bullet, you have to weigh the benefit of the floating homestead exemption to the homestead-owned taxpayers against the potential opportunity cost of lost revenues in the county in the future, and the shifting of your local property tax burden away from homeowners to other classes of property. I think you're up next, right, Stacy?
All right, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, good morning again.
Good morning.
So House Bill 581, from a financial point for the county, what I first want to put out there and make clear is the budget goals regardless of the decision that you make here. So for the finance department, we will continue to meet the future financial obligations of the county. We will maintain competitive salaries and retain experienced staff, reduce unnecessary expenses, be aware of increasing cost and inflation, and budget for the best possible services around the county. So in doing this, we will take into consideration the inflation that we've all experienced over the last few years. Some line items within the county that are trending up, other contract services that have escalation clauses, repairs and maintenance on buildings, automobiles, gas inflation, medical claims expenses, utilities, salary and fringe benefits, litigation, and civil service case resolution. The latest feedback we have from MAG is that we have made strides to fairly compensate our employees over the last few years, especially at the entry level. They are saying that we are still comparing in our compensation, we are still a little behind in the midpoint and max range. So some of the pros and cons that, just to add on to what Mr. Wall was talking about. So the pros that we see for the county constituents and citizens would be an increase to the current homestead exemption. Tax relief would be easier to study a budget. It'd be a much friendlier increase. The tax obligation would be tied to consumer price rather than the traditional appraisals. Some of the cons, we would have less opportunity of growth in services countywide because we would have less opportunity cost revenues coming in. Possible increases in revenues to maintain current services. With decrease in revenues may end up having us to increase our millage rate depending on where we're at to maintain our services. And then the decrease expected in the fire fund revenues may lead to less growth and inability to man existing and future fire stations. So this is similar to what Ed did, but this is based on the homesteaded residential property. All things remaining the same percentage increase on both sides, as well as the same homestead exemption. So all things remaining the same, this is our opportunity cost of revenue that we will lose moving forward. The concern here is that we also will lose the increase on the growth for those specific properties. So you will see that revenue amount will exponentially increase year after year. And then on the fire fund side, we'll see the same thing, same as before, same percentages, same homestead exemptions. And I'm going to ask Chief Sweat to come up and he can kind of provide some perspective on the impact to the fire fund directly.
Thank you, Chief Sweat, and thank you, Ms. Merritt.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and Commissioners.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to come before you and kind of give you some insight into the potential impacts to the fire fund should House Bill 581 move forward. So on the screen, what you see on the left-handed side is the estimated impact to the fire fund over the next 3 fiscal years without House Bill 581. As you will see at the bottom, the total revenue for those homesteaded properties, assuming that there's a 6% increase in property value, as well as an associated 6% increase in the tax bill, which yields the revenue at the bottom on those homesteaded properties only. Another thing to point out is the millage rate of 4.146. That has remained stagnant and in place for the previous 3 to 4 fiscal years as well. The millage rate of 4.146 has been the adopted millage rate for the fire fund over the last 4 to 5 years, with adjustments in the county millage rate fluctuations, but the fire fund has remained stagnant at that 4.146. So while we have seen increases in property values and therefore increases in the budget, those associated expenses when it comes to simply providing the fire protection services has kind of remained stagnant as well. On the right, what you see is the potential impact with House Bill 581 enacted. Not knowing what the next 3 or the next 36 months will bring when it comes to assessed values, of course, the CPI. The calculations that we have placed before you simply coincide with the ones without House Bill 581. So looking at the next 3 fiscal years, and the projected digest, once again, showing a 6% property value increase. However, the CPI remaining at 3%, therefore us only being able to increase that property tax bill by 3% versus the 6%. As we know, inflation rates are something that impacts our ability to do business every year. So one thing about the inflation rate that I want to mention, over the past 36 months, from February of 22 to January of 25, the United States experienced significant fluctuations in inflation rates. Inflation peaked to 9.1% in June of 2022, the highest level in decades, before gradually declining to 2.9% by December of 2024. Given those variations, the average annual inflation rate during this period was approximately 5%. So once again, looking at a 5% inflation rate over these over the last 3 fiscal years. Once again, not knowing what the next 36 months will bring, the right-hand side once again shows us a 6% increase in property value. The CPI capped at 3%, therefore us only being able to raise those tax assessments, which generates the revenue at the bottom. While on the left, you do see a steady revenue increase year after year without HB 581, $15.29 million in 26, $16.35 million in 27, to $17.47 in 28. You see that gradual increase as once again inflation rates and the cost of doing business and just trying to maintain the status quo when it comes to service delivery. Going back to the right, without HB 581 enacted, when you look at the total revenue for the M&O, that revenue, while it does increase a tad every year, it pretty much remains stagnant between $14.7 million in 26 and only $15.8 million in 28. So you see the reductions in fiscal year 26. We are looking at losing roughly $500,000 in revenue. 27, a little over $1 million in revenue, and fiscal year 28, upwards of $1.6 million in revenue. So how will that potentially impact the ability to provide the fire services that we are providing today? On average, my payroll to staff one firehouse that consists of a fire engine and or ladder as well as a medical transport unit is roughly about $4,600 a day in personnel costs to include benefits. So understanding that we may need to adjust our budget by $500,000 next year to incorporate this, personnel expenses average between 84 and 86% of our operating budget, therefore only leaving 14 to 16% of our total budget to provide the day-to-day operations. So to absorb a potential impact of a $500,000 reduction in revenue, trying to find that $500,000 in our simple operational budget is extremely hard to do. So with that being said, we would oftentimes look to our personnel expenses, which are, once again, 84 to 86% of our budget, to find those cost reductions. So if we had to absorb a $500,000 moving forward, to maintain or to see the reduction of $500,000, I would have to shut down one fire truck and one ambulance every third day throughout the fiscal year to recoup that $500,000 in reductions. Looking to the next fiscal year of 27 to absorb a reduction of potentially a little over $1.04 million, we would have to shut down a piece of fire apparatus and a transport unit every other day to see that reduction. And getting to the final 3-year projection to absorb an additional 1.6, we'll be looking at shutting down a fire station every single day in the county to absorb that 1.6 million reduction. And just looking at this totality over the course of the next 3 months, the reductions of $500,000, 1.04, 1.6, we're looking at reducing the fire department's operational budget by $3 million over the course of the next 36 months. Once again, if HB 581 is adopted. That will drastically impact our ability to maintain the current status quo that we are providing the service delivery as it is today.
All right. Is that everything, Chief Sweat?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Ms. Merritt, do you have anything else? All right. All right, we're going to move on into our hearings. Did y'all have any questions, board members, at this time?
Oh, yes. Yes, so I had a few questions, and I guess I'll start with for the fire fund. I'm not sure if I should direct that to
Chief Sweat, can you come back and answer some
our
questions
interim
from
CFO? Okay.
Commissioner Reeves regarding the fire fund, please?
Okay.
Madam Vice Chair, I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
I haven't asked it yet.
Okay,
Okay,
I'm
here we
sorry.
go. Here we go. All right. So I just wanted to confirm a few things. Is the fire fund that you mentioned, is this the sole funding source for the fire department?
It is the sole funding source for the fire side of the fire department, yes.
Side of the fire department. Okay, and you mentioned about the millage rates and the fire fund millage rate.
Yes, ma'am.
Which is separate and in addition to what the county millage rate is and city millage rate, et cetera. So our current fire fund millage rate is 4.1, but I think I saw on the Department of Revenue website, can the millage for the fire fund go up to 5? Like right now, we're at 4.1.
Correct.
But we can go up to 5?
Right, when the fire department was originally founded in 1967, and basically the fire tax was put out to vote by the citizens of county to fund a fire department moving forward. As part of that adoption process, it is capped at 5.0 mils. So while it is sitting steady at 4.146 and has been sitting there for the last several years, it can only go up to a max of 5%.
So would it be possible to offset some of the cost, the opportunity cost of HB 581 to slightly increase the fire fund millage rate? Is that an option? I don't know who increases the millage rate for the fire fund.
The millage rate is increased on the fire fund side at the will of the board, and our ability to, rise that and or lower it. But once again, it's important to recall that it's sat stagnant for years. So it's been at 4.146 for several years, where we've seen fluctuations in the millage rate at the county level. The fire fund has remained at the 4.146 for the last several years.
Okay, thank you. I just want to get some clarification on that.
Right, and if I can add one more thing. Any reduction to the fire services as a whole could have detrimental impacts on other things, such as our ISO rating. Right now, we have a Class 1 ISO rating that we are extremely proud of, which basically tells you and the citizens that we are providing world-class fire protection. Economic development also uses that as a selling tool when we are attracting new businesses to the county. So any reduction when it comes to our ability to maintain the status quo as driven by ISO, as driven by our accrediting body, any reduction in those services could have downstream potential impacts as well.
Okay. Can you define the ISO for?
Right, the ISO rating is a calculation of not only the fire department, the water system, the 911 system. It's the insurance services organization, which basically comes in, basically looks at the fire protection in the community and comes to a public protection classification. 1 is the best, 10 is the worst. Those public protection classifications then are shared with insurance carriers throughout the world, and the majority of insurance carriers use that ISO rating, which drives the insurance costs that we pay as residential property owners as well as commercial property owners that pay in the city. And basically, that rating dictates how well your fire department will respond to a residential structural fire and or a commercial structural fire.
So what is our current ISO rating?
1, which is the best.
He said
Can't get
1.
any- Can't get any
He
better.
said 1 earlier.
Want to
Yeah.
hear it again.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
you're very welcome.
So, Commissioner, I just want to add on to that. The same way that the fire fund would work would be the same way that the general fund millage rate would work, is we do have some leeway there. So if we can't balance the budget and the board wishes to implement certain services or maintain certain services, that would be an option on the general fund side as well.
All right.
Yes, it's not a question, but a clarification. The concerns I've received have been that people are believing that they will no longer have homestead exemption. So I'm hoping that this has clarified that homestead exemption will exist no matter.
It will exist as long as you originally qualify for it. It will just continue to increase if we opt in.
I just want to make sure,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
the word has been
That-
that.
I've seen that too, but no,
Oh,
the
I just
homestead
wanna
is
make
not
that
going
clear.
away. If
Yeah.
anything, it's increasing.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Commissioner Reeves.
Okay. I have one more question for you, Stacy. Sorry, interim CFO Merritt. Okay, so for the projections on the previous slide, or 2 slides, I think it was.
On the general fund?
Yes, ma'am, that's the one. Okay, so this is just based on, let me rephrase that. When it says the prior year digest, is that just the residential, or does that also include the commercial tax digest?
So the number you see here is the previous year's residential homesteaded digest
Okay.
number.
So do any of these projections also include any like forecasting or increases in the tax digest for the commercial properties?
Not
Because
for-
how would
not
that
on-
affect those
Not on this
numbers?
specific one, no ma'am.
Okay,
This was just showing the overall impact that the bill would have on the county revenue.
okay. But
Opportunity loss.
from the residential side? And it doesn't include any of the commercial numbers?
Right, and it only includes the residential homesteaded properties.
Because those are the only ones that would be
That would
affected
only
by
ones affected by
HB
this.
581. But it's also possible for the county to have an increase in revenue on the commercial side, because that's not affected by HB 581.
That would continue as it is now. We would have the same increases going forward on the commercial side.
Okay, thank you.
All right, board members, are there any other questions at this time? All right, we're going to move into our hearings. Courtney, did you?
The board will now hear public comments. Citizens will be given 3 minutes, maximum time limit to speak before the board, with a total time of 30 minutes for public comments.
No, but it won't be 30 minutes, but, yeah, but just a regular hearing. That's
Okay.
fine.
Please remember that comments must be limited to matters on the agenda or over matters which the governing body has jurisdiction in relation to House Bill 581 for today's special call meeting. Speakers must maintain decorous demeanor and refrain from personal attacks upon board members, shouting and using obscene language. Please remember to state your name and county of residency for the record. Speak clearly into the microphone, and speakers should be courteous, respectful, and not make any disparaging remarks or use abusive language when addressing the board. And I want to correct on record that it is not a 30-minute time limit for this public hearing. Thank you.
All right, we're going to get started. Again, thank you all for coming out this morning. And so we're going to first start off with Joanne Hicks.
I'm not accustomed to speaking in public, so I typed it up, what I wanted to say.
Yes, ma'am.
I thank you for allowing me to express my thoughts on House
ma'am.
Bill 581.
Ma'am.
Ms. Hicks.
For all homeowners.
Ms. Hicks, can you state your name and your resident? I mean,
I'm
your,
sorry.
I'm sorry, your
Joanne Hicks,
county.
3548 Rex Road,
Okay.
Rex, Georgia, 30273. You need the phone number?
Nope, you're good.
Okay.
Go.
For all homeowners, in particular, those with low incomes depend on homestead exemption to keep their property taxes at an affordable range. Look at those attending the meetings concerning House Bill 581. They are extremely concerned, or we would not be here. If Clayton County is in need of additional funds, consider this. Raise the county sales tax. In doing so, everyone will pay their fair share and not just a select few. Again, I thank you, and I ask that you give my thoughts serious consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we will have Ms. Donna Payton. Donna Payton.
I don't know if it's good morning or good afternoon. My name is Donna Payton. I'm a resident of Clayton County. My residence does not include the city of Jonesboro, just the county.
So Jonesboro.
The residents of where I stay is a gated community, and we are responsible for paving our own streets. We're responsible for our gutter system and numerous other things. My taxes pay for Clayton County. Clayton County doesn't pay for where I live. So an increase in my community will be impacted greatly. We are senior citizens, and most of us are retired. Most of us have a limited income. So any increase will be impacted on us. My question is, does this also include school tax? Does this increase school tax?
So, Ms. Payton, at this time, we're not answering questions. This is a hearing for us to hear you. If you
Okay.
have any questions, we have our CFO here.
Okay.
They can answer your questions after we get through with the hearing today.
Okay.
All right.
But I do want to state also that within the last few years, the millage rate has already gone up. So our our taxes have already increased. So another increase in taxes will be detrimental.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have Ms. Mary Alexander. Mary Alexander. Okay.
Well, good morning. My name is Mary Alexander, and I live at 2684
You don't have to
Briston
do your
Drive,
whole address, just
Ellenwood.
do your Ellenwood, Georgia. You can just do
all right.
Ellenwood. Yes, ma'am.
My question is that since I live in this county of Clayton, unincorporated, Ellenwood is an unincorporated Clayton County, and my taxes has gone up more than when I first came here. And we did, as you said before, we had a millage rate, which increased my property taxes. And I'm also retired on a fixed income. So any more of this increasing will impact my taxes exorbitant, because every time the tax goes up, it increases my escrow balance. I have not paid for my house yet, so I tell you, with all these taxes, almost it's getting me out of my home. And I hope to live here all this time, since I'm a retired citizen. So I hope that you will consider this bill, because I think our operating cost in Clayton County is far too high, and we need to balance that better so that the citizens of Clayton County will not be impacted, because most of them are retired. So I appreciate speaking about this, and I hope you'll consider it.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander. Next will be Ms. Donna Hector.
Hi, my name is Donna Hector. I live in Riverdale, Clayton County.
Thank you.
Most of everything that all these people are saying, I'm a senior citizen, and I'm on a fixed income. And with the millage every year going up, it's going to force me to either sell. There's nothing else to do there, because one thing I wanted to, and you said we can't ask, the voting, when we voted for this, it was on the ballot. It was not explained to the majority of people. No one understood what they were voting for. And even if you read it, it was not in plain language for the normal layman to really understand.
Hold on 1 minute, Ms. Hector. Please silence all cell phones. All cell phones need to be silenced at this time. Thank you.
That information was not privy to us going in to vote. It was not explained while we were there voting. And I understand that they're saying that X amount of people voted in favor of something that they had no idea of. I look at it, it was trickery. The paperwork was worded in such a way that you had to be an attorney to understand what you were voting for. And I think that is horrible for the state, the county, or whomever to put something like that on a ballot and not explain it to the laymen, us, we, the people here. We had no idea. And now you want to hold us to the fire and say, hey, you voted for this. But how dare you hold us to something that we did not understand, that you did not explain, you did not put it in layman terms for the people to understand. That's fraud. And fraud should never be able to hold up. And then you're asking us to agree to something. Hey, you didn't explain it. I'm not saying that I blame the people that voted for it, but I blame the establishment who wrote up the documents and did not put it in layman terms, did not explain what was coming forth before we got to the poll to vote on something which we did not understand. So many people came out because I was outside and they were saying, do you know what that meant? And I'm going like, no, not exactly. But I think it's when verbiage is put in such a way where you do not understand it, it's not for your best interest. Because if it was for your best interest, they would explain it thoroughly for you to understand. And then we have these documents here, which is talking about homestead exemption limits. What limits? You put up a form saying, this is your limit. Every time something is put into writing and says, we're going to just do this for this period of time, and then we're going to go back to the above limits with the water, the gas, all of those things, it never is done. We constantly keep seeing increase upon increase upon increase, all the time.
Ms. Alexander, keep your comments towards the board.
No, I'm just saying,
Yes, I understand.
it just infuriates me
Yes, ma'am.
because I've been here for over 20-something years, and when we go into these agreements with the state, the government, or whomever, they tell us, oh, we're going to increase the road taxes, and when we get to this limit, or we're going to put in the toll, and after we get to this amount of money, then we won't pick up any money for the tolls, and we're still picking up money. We're still receiving bills, astronomical bills. Electricity, my electricity bill was $488 for 1 month. I'm on a fixed income. How do I live? How do I pay my bills? Before I know it, I'm gonna be on the street. The other thing I see is a lot of apartment complexes going up. Are they getting them ready for us? And we still can't afford them? Rent has gone up, light bill has gone up, we're paying for gas. Just using the pipes is about equal to the amount of gas we're using. We have not received any increase on our salary, whether working or retired. And then they find a way to gyp us out of our retirement. You know, so I'm for the life of me, I'm trying to understand, where are we going in this future? As seniors and then the new children coming into this world. We're being impacted so greatly by the dollars and cents, and we're already seeing we cannot afford it. I looked online and I saw a couple states that are talking about doing away with property taxes. I wish Georgia would be one of those. Because we really need to do away with property taxes. There's other means. We have the federal government, we have state government. There are other entities that can pay for our police, our fire, and all these other entities. We find money to send across the globe to all these other countries for whatever, funding wars. Why can't we take care of our people here? You know, I'm very much, wondering, where are we going? Everybody has their hand in the cookie jar. And the people who needs to be fed are not being fed. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Next is Orlando Gooding.
Orlando Gooding, District 3. Normally I have a prepared statement, but some recent events this weekend has changed everything. So I'm going to ask this question that I asked once before. Who of you elected yourselves to the chair? You are elected to represent the people. Any decisions that you make are not the best interest of the county, it's in the best interest of the people. Like the lady said, retired on a fixed income, it's a juggling thing now to pay bills. The presentation by Mr. Walls, I've heard several times, is excellent, but the bill is still confusing. The problem that I have is with the millage rate increases recently, last year, okay, we were $99 million short. So we had to balance the books by raising the millage rate. I hope I got that right, because I know my taxes went up. I'm dealing with my mortgage company now to make up the difference from last year plus the increase this year, okay? Now, in one of the presentations I heard, well, we're gonna have a $44 million shortage if we opt in. Maybe my math is bad, but 99 million and 4 million are two different numbers. If we had $99 million last year without HB 581, and we'll have a $4 million shortage with HB 581, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. What has to happen is people have to trust you. And right now, this board has no trust, okay? Trust is based on transparency and accountability. Those seems to be foreign words to politicians, because the more they let you know, the more you won't like them, okay, or what they're doing. So, my mom always said, take the sense out of nonsense and put it in common sense and go on about your business. If it doesn't make sense, then we shouldn't do it. You have people here that are, like me, retired on a fixed income. It'll be hard to keep your place if this keeps going up. Lord knows the feds are doing it, the states are doing it, the county's doing it, and what the lady said a minute ago? Everybody got their hand in the cookie jar except us. Okay? One of the things I want people to be aware of, when it talks about waste, fraud, and abuse, let people know that you're deciding to build a brand new Board of Commissioners building on Poston Road. How much is that going to cost? You just had a work session the other day that talked about a brand-new sports facility. If it was so great, why doesn't Fayette County have it? If it was so great, why doesn't Henry County have it? They're not tier 1, we are. So instead of spending money, I understand splash dollars cannot be used in operating costs. I'm talking about dollars, period. When it comes out of our pocket, there's a problem. So maybe, instead of building a brand-new sports facility, instead of building a brand-new Board of Commissioners building, why don't you take care of the people? Okay? Now, in finishing, the reason I said I didn't write up my speech was because of what happened this weekend. And it's going to sound strange coming from me, but I have to say this. This weekend, we had a power outage. Okay? The power outage affected the jail. Now, the jail is already overcrowded and understaffed. We need to build another facility so people who are incarcerated, we're not confused with Fulton County, which is a total disaster. That's lawsuits, legal fees, all that nonsense. Instead of spending money on your little perks and cute little buildings and all, build the jail so we are all safe. Because nobody's going to come here to do business in an unsafe county.
All right. Next will be Ms. Darlene Johnson.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Darlene Johnson, unincorporated Clayton County, Rex, Georgia. I've come before you guys this morning, and you were thinking only Jonesboro opted in. Forest Park opted out. And I agree with the opt-out. We can complain about the House Bill 581 and with this floss. So they've thrown a carrot for us to grab on to, saying that, well, with the floss and inflation. Floss is based on the inflation. And unless you've not been paying attention, inflation is extremely high, and it's going to continue to be high. So I am not willing to allow the state to control the homestead values of our homes, because what I see in this process, which is something that they've tried to do for a very long time, is to cap those houses north of Atlanta, Buckhead, all those places with those extremely expensive homes, to cap the cost on their homes so that their taxes don't increase. This is to help them. But when you pull that slate over to Clayton County, not only are our houses already undervalued, because if I took my little 1,800 square foot house and put it in Cobb County, it would be worth $300,000 or $400,000, whereas it is not here in Clayton County. And what I see with this bill and the overall objective, this is my view, is that they will cap them, but then they will come here and they will increase our property values to where they actually should be. But in increasing those property values, our taxes are also going to increase. The other thing that I see with this, because I've been doing work in this county, boots on the ground, for a very long time. I spoke about gentrification in Riverdale almost 15 years ago. Riverdale didn't show up until they saw the change. Okay, but it's already a done deal. And what I see with this bill and the way that they're doing things will allow gentrification to come through here like a flood. And there will be nothing to stop it. And for us seniors, because you guys are not the only seniors in here. I'm a senior. I'm a retired senior. Fortunately, I probably am in better shape than most with pensions and investments. So a lot of seniors don't have that. And it's unfortunate, but We want everything in this county. We want restaurants, we want fine dining, we want all of this, but we don't want to see any kind of tax increase. We cannot have those things without some kind of tax increase. If we want to live like Buckhead, guess what? We've got to pay like Buckhead. Now, I am not encouraging any tax increase. Absolutely, we don't need those. However, you cannot believe that we can stay here in the state that we're in and having nothing available to us but wanting everything, and in no way have a property tax increase. What we cannot afford is to have our services decreased under any circumstances. That is fire, police, sheriff. We need our services. And yes, everything has gone up. Water, gas, light. That has nothing to do with our commissioners. And taxes, that has to do with those companies. And on top of everything else, I really am happy to see so many people come out to these hearings, because here is the fact. You never come out for anything else. You have no idea what's going on in the county because you're not engaged. And as far as that House Bill 581 being on the ballot, that information was out everywhere. Reading is fundamental. Okay, so you had it on all of these social medias. And even if you didn't do it then, it is critical that you get a sample ballot before you go out to vote. People wait for the last minute to even go out and vote. They don't get a sample ballot. That question was on the sample ballot. With that being on the sample ballot, all you needed to do, if you did not understand and needed clarification, they're your commissioners. You could have called, got information from your commissioners. You could have called the elections office and tried to get some explanation, although they are nonpartisan. You may not have been able to get it. But that information was out because I specifically put it out consistently to people that are on all these social media pages. Like I said, reading is fundamental. Clayton County, whether you guys realize it or not, we are a AAA county. And so for those of you who don't understand what I say when I say a AAA county, we're the only county of the 159 counties in this state that would register, that falls under my idea of AAA. That is, the first A is affordability. Go to another county and see if you can afford to be there. We're the most affordable of all surrounding counties. We are the only county that is accessibility rich, meaning that we have access to every highway here. We have 3 thoroughways. You can get any place in Georgia without ever getting on the highway. And assets. We have our own assets. We have some of the best water in the country. We've got our jewel Clayton State. We've got our own hospital, although I hear people shut up. Although I hear people,
I got you.
I'm sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, when people are up speaking, we need to be cognizant of that. Please keep your comments to yourself, and please allow the people that are up speaking to speak. I know that you may have your comments, but please keep them to yourself. I would ask that, please.
And many of
Thank
them are
you.
uninformed, which is why I'm doing this. The assets are our water. We have Clayton State, Southern Regional Hospital, we have MARTA. 92%, not 80%, of the airport is in Clayton County. Okay, we have the Georgia Archives, we have our own wetlands, which is critical. So with that being said, and us being a AAA county, businesses are going to come here regardless, because we have the railroad for these logistics. And you just saw Savannah, they're getting ready to make billions doing their with the exports, right? We are at the top of the list to make some of that money because we have access to the rail and we have access to the airport. No other county offers them that. With that being said, we are not do not need to allow any business to come into Clayton County tax-free at no point. Because we're no longer, we might be a tier 1, but the thing is, we are golden, and we have everything that we need to capitalize on these businesses that want to come here. You don't get to come here and operate tax-free for 10 years. Absolutely not. You're going to pay taxes when you come in, and I asked this some years ago for the logistic companies and the trucking companies that are coming here, can we find a way to add an additional 1 penny tax to their contracts to keep our roads clear of potholes? Because I've never seen so many potholes, but these tractor trailers are riding down 2-lane streets. Our streets are torn up. So if they're going to come here and do business, let's make them pay for some of the road repairs so we don't have to take it out of our general funds. We don't have to come up with the way to pay for it. And as far as the homestead is concerned, I would love for my commissioners to consider opting out of that. Many of our citizens, and I've heard them say, I don't trust the commission board. Whether they trust the commission board or not, I don't trust the state having control over our homestead, the value of our homes, and everything else, because I promise you that in the long run, it is going to hurt Clayton County. We are in a unique situation, and we need to take that into consideration. I am not willing to let the state have control over our homestead, so while they lower theirs, they'll increase ours. And y'all crying about taxes now, some of you will be homeless if this goes into place, because you won't be able to afford your taxes, because the property values are going to go way up, and you know when property value goes up, so does your taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Priscilla Garner Ellison.
Good afternoon, commissioners, board members.
It is afternoon now.
Yes, it is afternoon. and members of the public that are here for this meeting. Some of my concern has been voiced by speakers before me. I will only piggyback on the last speaker who said about voting. What she said is true. What I do that as well, request a voting ballot, but there's still, even though reading is fundamental, there's that aspect of you all coming out to us to let us know about these things ahead of time, so that when we see them on the ballot, we'll be informed. So I ask that in the future that things like this come out to us before we see it on the ballot, because I said no. As a veteran, and Clayton County is one of the counties that give us exempt. I'm retired. And I pray and hope that you take that in consideration, because I think you're saying seniors and veterans. So when you do make that decision, consider veterans seriously about doing the exemption. And all the people here, we wouldn't be here if we weren't concerned about this change, and that how is it going to affect all of us, whether we have good access or not. We all own some type of income, and we try to manage our money well and pay our bills. So we ask that when you all get into your meeting, you know, look at all the faces here and all the concern, positive, negative, whatever was said, and make the right decision that will affect all of us, so that we could continue to stay in this county, because I've been here over 20 some odd years moving here, and I don't want to leave the county, and I don't want to really leave my home. So I'm asking that you all to take that in consideration.
Thank you. Next is Lamont Jackson. Lamont Jackson.
Morning, Board, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the public. Lamont Johnson from
I'm
the
sorry,
3rd
Johnson.
District. I'm sorry?
No, I wanted to make sure I got your last name
Johnson,
right.
yeah, yes.
Thank you.
Lamont Johnson from the 3rd District over in Hampton. I'm a boot camp when it comes to something like this, and I'm hearing from both sides. And my concern is that as I looked around the room, even the time when I came out on the 11th, I noticed that there's not a lot of young people out here. And I'm a Sunday school teacher, and
Y'all be good now.
Let me break it down to you real quick. There's not a lot of young folks out here, and I mean, because I teach Sunday school, and the kids that I taught are now grown people now, and they still call me Uncle Lamont or Uncle Bear. But the thing is that now they're homeowners, and their family, they have families. Even the students that I have now, their families live in Clayton County. And they don't know anything about 581. And when I tried to explain it to them, they were just as confused as I was. And yes, it was mentioned earlier that, you pretty much need a degree to understand. And yes, reading is fundamental, but when it comes to the point where you're sitting there and you're reading it and you read it over and over again, and you ask questions, and it's, what I'm basically going to break it down and just say that that I have questions, but I'm not going to take up the time. I'm going to go ahead and ask, right after this, I'm going to sit here and ask questions. But my concern is that with Clayton County growing, because I see all the apartments and I see all the houses coming up, I'm hoping that there's more houses going up than apartments, because my concern is that even though the people that own the companies that own these complexes, these apartment complexes, that eventually they may not become profitable and they might let it go. And that, next thing you know, you have an apartment with nobody in it. So that's scary. So I'm not going to take up any more time. I'm just letting you know that, hey, there's young people out here. My concern is that, like, I would love to see more income. I'd love to see more businesses come to Clayton County. You need to sweeten the pot a little bit. Try to get these companies to come in.
Yes, sir.
All right. Do your best.
Yes, sir.
And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Next is Jada Knowles, or is it Nolan? I said it right, okay.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. That was the exercise. Hello, thank you. Good afternoon.
It's afternoon.
Sure I said this afternoon,
Yes,
right?
Ms. Knowles.
To the board, amen. First of all, I want to thank you all for at least allowing me the opportunity to get up and speak, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
In reference to that HB 581, I too did not quite understand, but I did get an understanding. But the fact that it was not too clear, it wasn't made clear enough.
Can you state your name and
I did forget that portion.
Your city.
My name is Jada, and I'm from, I'm a resident of Clayton County.
What city?
Riverdale. Riverdale. Amen.
Your name and your city.
Oh, I'm sorry. Man. Yeah, I can see that never mind. But first of all, I want to concur with everything that everyone has been saying about the opting out, okay? One thing I do realized in 2000, I believe it was 2008, I'm just going to talk about Clayton County. I don't know about all these other ones, but Clayton County, there was a significant property loss in which people like myself, okay, the property taxes went up. A lot of people lost their homes because they were not able to pay the property taxes, okay? I too am retired by the way of disability. I became disabled. Why? Because I'm doing so much work, 80.91 hours in 1 week. And it's been like that because I was a mandated worker, employee, okay? So I didn't have an option. But fast forward. Senior citizens, I live in a community, a subdivision that I want to say 95%. I'm the youngest one in my community. And I told y'all, I'm a senior myself, okay? Thank God, don't look too much. But I'm a senior citizen myself. And so I look at a lot of my fellow neighboring residents. If this bill go up any higher, I know my taxes went up like 2 to 3 times the amount. 2 to 3 times the amount. And being fixed on the fixed income, it's no way. I think all of us gonna be on Homeless Boulevard if we don't get this thing together. I'm for real, you know, because there's so many, and we're not gonna talk about the lights, the gas, the water. My water bill, oh my goodness. I went down and they said, oh, apparently, we sent somebody out to read it. Baby, it ain't the meter, I promise you. It's not the meter, I don't have no water leak. But now we get to this tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And I know that we got to be able to pay your bills. I know everywhere you go, you're going to need to pay something. But before you all make a definitive decision, please keep in mind, those that don't have right now. You think the homeless population is something that they don't, well, I can say Clayton County, they travel very lightly on that homeless population thingy too. But we're gonna have a whole lot more folks losing their homes because they can't afford to pay their property taxes. And I'm gonna put my hands up first. Because my property taxes, that's why I ain't paid them yet. I can't afford the $2,600 that I'm paying just in property taxes. They didn't do nothing else to the street. We still only got that one light on the cul-de-sac, that part. Now I noticed that bill went down a little bit, but that's it. The crime rate is still, well, I think the crime rate went down a little bit more.
Yes.
I had my neighbor that had to go to the hospital because I don't know exactly what was going on, but it took the fire department a little too long to get there. But that's me. And he's of the other persuasion. That part. Okay? But I say all of that to say this. Before you all make a definitive decision, keep in mind of the folks that's really going to result in every decision that is made. Because we're the one, this is our county, and we're supposed to live in it. We're not in a prison. And I don't want to be felt like I'm in a prison. Okay? I love my freedom. Thank you again.
Thank you, Ms. Knowles. Next is Mr. Mickey Garber.
Madam Clerk, Mickey Garber, unincorporated Rex, Georgia. Madam Chair, commissioners, and my fellow citizens. What I'm about to say is to put everybody in a positive light. What we need to do is become unified. And how do we become unified? We throw out the garbage that all of us have, both whether opting in or opting out. Throw out all the garbage for those that are opting out or opting in. It's all been mentioned here today. Let me just review a little bit of this situation. A large ship, as opposed to a small ship, is harder to turn around. Therefore, I don't want the state telling me what to do. I'd rather be telling you what to do. FLOST, floating option sales tax. And that's a carrot that they threw in for us opting in. Well, let's just look at that. We can raise our taxes anytime we want to, whether we're in or out. Who do you want to control your money? I'd rather have you control my money because I'm closer to my money. I can see my money at work. Again, I'm going to use the word compromise. We need to take the best part of the whole situation, whether in or out or in. Trust. I'd rather put my trust in you than I would state government, because I can come visit you and tell you face to face how I feel, but I doubt if I could get an appointment with Governor Kemp. Here's where we need to come unified. Expand our current homestead exemption. Be in control of your own government. We can do this today. We don't have to wait till the 1st of March or next week. But I'm here to tell you, you need to get off your muffet, Miss Tuffet, and get to work on this exemption now, not next year, not 6 months from now, but after, right after you give your answer, you need to have an alternate. To expand our own homestead exemption to people of fixed or lowered income, for our elderly and people on fixed income and veterans, especially disabled veterans, of which I was fortunate enough not to be disabled. As for expanding, getting restaurants into our county, and high-end restaurants, and people from all cultures of restaurants, you need to advertise yourself, because you got every ethnic group in this county with a small restaurant, and you need to promote them so they can pay more taxes. The more business they do, the more money we are going to make. With that being said, I know you can't answer any questions, so I won't ask you for any questions. But I'll be here, and my fellow citizens will be here watching you vote, and watching you spend our money. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Garber. Next is Phoenicia, is it Phoenicia Hurt? You said Hunt? Okay, I'm sorry. Hunt?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Phoenicia Hunt, Ellenwood, Georgia. A lot of information has gone out this morning. Cannot say that I fully understand it, what 581 was about, even though I read it. I won't reiterate some of the things that people have already stated. It's not just retired citizens that live in this county. It's also still working people that live in this county. And we are also concerned about, you know, the millage rates when it just went up a year or two ago. I know we're not talking about school taxes, but that's one of my major concerns. I don't have any kids in school anymore. I don't have any kids in college anymore. So the concern with that is if the millage rate goes up, then other parts of the taxes go up as well. You've already talked about fire, we've talked about property, but we left out a couple of other things that are on my tax bill, and I'm sure that's on other tax bills. So I'd like to know, does that include the school tax? And also, I've also had a concern for years. Why did we raise the exemption of people before they can start taking that extra exemption of being seniors? While I'm not retired yet, I would love to retire within the next 2 to 3 years. But at this rate, with taxes continuing to increase, that may affect my plan, and I'm concerned about that. The second thing is the types of businesses that we are bringing into Clayton County. Storage facilities, a lot of apartments, a lot of different types of things. But where have our Target gone? Where have our mall, we used to have one of the greatest malls it was right here in Clayton County. It went down, yes, on the way back up, but it went down. So a lot of things that have been affected, I know, may not be one of your, major things. I know the pandemic had an effect on a lot of different things, but we need to really think about the people that are in this county and how they've been affected already by millage rate increases. And then let's talk about the other funds of the government that this millage rate will have an effect on. Let's not do halfway. Let's not just talk about fire. Let's not talk about property. Because anyone's income in here, I bet you, has not increased with the rate of inflation when it comes to their income. However, we see rising prices in the bills that we pay, whether water, power, gas. Oh, food, thank you. Food, shortages in different areas. So we need to look at ways to help our county citizens right now and not continue to go up in other ways. Bring our stores back right here. I'm tired of having to go down to McDonough to shop. That's Henry County. I'm paying some taxes in Henry County. If you want the money to come in here, bring in the right types of businesses, is all I'm saying. That will get you the money where people will come here and shop, and we don't have to go out of here to shop.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
I appreciate it. Next is Glendon Dorsey. Again, Glendon Dorsey. All right, next is Michael Tyler. Michael Tyler. Michael Tyler. All right, next is Christy Thomas.
Good morning, or good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Christian Thomas, but you can call me Christy. I'm in the North Bridge Estate community, and Tasha Allen is my commissioner. Nice to meet you. And I am here to speak on the younger side of the bargain. I am 47. I bought my house at 40. I'm a mother of 4. I have 3 grandchildren. I am a retiree from MARTA, not to my fault, but they just was going to let me go, so I had an opportunity to retire. I don't have any income. Ever since I moved into Clayton County, I've not been able to catch a break. I've faced foreclosure twice, and by God's grace, I was saved, okay? That's because the Lord is my trust. So I need to piggyback just a little quick. I worked in the construction department, so I was part of the meetings when planning and all the infrastructures and the ideas were brainstorming. I was in those meetings in MARTA. And this is my second meeting, only because my previous HOA lady reached out to me. This information is not coming out to my community. In our community, it's about 360 homes. Majority of them are elderly in the front, but in the back it's working class. It's single family like myself, and then there's married couples with people with children. They're all at work. They don't know. Everybody is not on social media, nor next door. It could be good and it could be bad because it's a smear campaign, because a lot of ignorant people are on there putting their ideas and their thoughts of what we don't know, okay? The taxes are extremely high. I cannot afford it. I have no income. I sympathize with every elderly in here because they on the fixed income. They can't go out there and get something going. They can't have a job. Ever since I've been here, my kids have not been able to come to Clayton County schools. The schools are not of quality. To piggyback on the water is contaminated. I had it tested. I have a $7,500 water system in my house because my kids were breaking out and they couldn't tell me what it was, and they asked me about the water and I had it tested. So the water is not up to par as far as the system goes. I'm asking you guys to look at us as a whole body. In order to have monies to come in, you got to bring in your businesses. And they need to be big businesses, not your Wings, not your McDonald's, not your Panera Bread, because everybody don't eat there, okay? But all of the storage units indicates that there is a bigger agenda to go ahead and pull us out. I want you to know, once you get your people who are in homes and they lose their homes, you're going to welcome in Airbnbers, because there's a lot of those people rising now just trying to rent out. So where are you going to do with your people when the taxes continue to go? Where are we going? The lady talked about, well, we're affordable, in this community, but then you're going to have homeless populations. You don't even have enough income to help people pay a light bill? I'm concerned with that because my kids are all graduated, okay? They all graduated, but they did not graduate from this county because it was not a par. Just for my grandson to qualify for scholarship, they had to be in a district where the school was failing, and I think that's River's Edge around the corner. If my grandchild would have been attending of that school, he will fall below where he is right now. That's because nobody is scoring on the level that they should be. But I feel bad because this is my first meeting ever. I read books every day, including the Bible, okay? But when somebody comes and tells me something, then I go out and try, but people have a negative connotation about politicians, about the people who are working like the commissioner. I didn't know nothing about y'all. I know about the tax commissioner, but I don't know. You can't put that information on Nextdoor and everybody are homeowners. That information needs to be coming to us by mail. If we paying the taxes, we need to have that. Then you need to have a footman. You have to have somebody to call us, like they did when the election was going on. They had that stuff on rotation. I swear to God, y'all could have started a whole new recycle center with all that paper that came to me about the election. It's crazy. But I'm asking y'all to look at it that way. Get a task force. Y'all, the last meeting I attended, they put up something about planning. All I see is the townhomes, the homes, right there off of Tara. Y'all building all of that. You got storage units, you got more gas stations that don't came in out of nowhere. We don't need that many gas stations. But if the houses are taking up the land, where your business going? Where your business going? Because I don't go around. I started off as a bus driver, mobility bus driver, so I'm kind of fluent about all the areas around here. If you continue to bring in your homes and your townhomes, where are your business going? Because it seems like nobody has, the whole intention is to keep coming off and taking it from the community. And that's so unfair when it's not a lot of things available to us. I go to Peachtree City, because I want to eat good and I want to shop good too. Okay? I go to Henry County because I want to eat good and shop good too. The food here, I can't even eat. Okay, I can't even eat, but unfortunately I've cut back on a lot because I don't even work. I cut back because gas too much. There is no food in my house. My dad is 70 years old and he giving me monies. I'm overqualified to work at a regular Walmart, McDonald's. Nobody want to hire me. I got 17 years with MARTA. 17 years, and I worked in the construction part 10 years. So I know planning, I know infrastructure, and I know what it takes. But if you don't have a creative members on your team to see a vision bigger than what you putting out, then no business is coming. No business is coming. So think about that. You need to come up with a creative task force, somebody who is young, somebody who knows what we need and what's going to sell, because selling the house is not going to work. I'm sorry. It don't got loud, didn't it? Okay, yeah, listen, I just, I didn't know what I was going to say. I'm sorry. I am a loud person. I don't really need that. I still got to hear me. Okay. But I'm just asking y'all to please, even not for our sake, for the elderly. That's not right, because they don't earn their time. Mm-hmm. And I honor every last one of them, and y'all should honor them too. I'm not thinking about the state so much so, because I was like, well, if the bill passed, why are we overturning the bill? I say, is that even allowed? In that case, y'all should have had the person who y'all wanted for the president. Y'all should have just went on and overrided it. In that the case, honor that. Honor that, because y'all put it to task for us to vote on it. So look at us as people. If we are the community that's more affordable, then you know these people don't have that income. It's not about the state. If God is on your side, who's going to be against you? People need to get on their knees and pray, because God say prayer changes everything. It changed everything. And I'm that confident in that for me to sit there and say that. But don't ride off the backs of these people here, because we don't have nowhere to go. And I probably don't want to stay in Buckhead. I moved down here so my kids couldn't even be in the city. And they found Lyft and Uber. And that was crazy, just by itself. But just have mercy on the community, because it's something else that y'all can do. Go back to the table. Go back and pull that guy who was in the last meeting about the plan and showing me all these dang on houses. Don't show me no other house. Cut that off. Because you ain't leaving no room for the Hartsville airports and all the other people to come and be entertained. Because they got to go to Fayetteville, and they look like they're about to go too. But Peachtree City and Henry County, but they still building, they bringing in, restaurants and things that we can enjoy. But I'm tired of all this other stuff. Just have mercy. We people here. We got a lot of them. Thank you so much for hearing me out.
Thank you. Next, we will have Ms. Pat McCoy. You're good. Okay, no problem. Next is, I want to make sure, this is Yolanda Rainey. Okay. Next is this Van Shearers?
On the sign-in sheet.
Okay. Let's see, and then I have, Lord, I'm gonna get this, is it Genoway, last name? First name Bertaz or Verkey? All right, we'll keep moving. Next is Miss Evans. Next is Frederica Irby. Okay. Check.
Good afternoon, Chairman and board members. My name is Frederica Irby. I'm a homeowner in Rex, Georgia. I'm here today backing up everything everyone else has pretty much said. What I want to say is just that, you know, a lot of seniors, I'm a senior, retired as well, and a lot of seniors did not understand the HB 581. And if you guys could just make it plain, for us and for them to understand what we're voting for and voting on. So even going forth with this HB 581, if you'll put it in layman's term so everyone can understand it, then we can better back you if that's something that needs to be done or not, and let you guys understand why we're not wanting to back the bill. The other thing is that, you know, most people thinking that they're gonna be able to lose their home if taxes go up, and if they do, they probably will, because, you know, you're on a fixed income, or jobs are not paying you any more money, but yet everything else is going up. So we just want you guys to look at those things and be aware of, you know, who you have living in your county. You have a lot of seniors living, and you do have younger people with families. They can't even afford taxes because of their jobs are not paying them enough money to even afford the taxes. You know, I have my son living in Clayton County with 3 kids. It's hard for him to make ends meet, even working in Clayton County. So it's just hard on everyone when the taxes are steady going up and the jobs are not paying any more money in Clayton County. So we just want you guys to be aware of that when you're making decisions, and just putting the word out and just putting it in layman's term and making us aware of the meeting. Like elderly people said, most of them don't even know how to use a cell phone properly, let alone to be on social media looking for things that's going to be available to them that's coming out and what you guys are doing. So like they said, put it in paper in our mailboxes. That way they will at least be able to read it, you know, a piece of paper. And I know that's pretty much is old school now with so much social media, but for seniors, that's what they need. Most of them, like I said, they don't know how to look at a message even on their phone. My husband is 70-something years old and he doesn't, and I've tried to show him. So I know that seniors don't know how to do it, and I'll talk with other seniors and I'm trying to help them learn how. So just if we can have something in our mail, they can have something in their mailbox that they understand. And then even though, you know, you have to have it in your term, but then have something else in layman's term that they understand, so we'll know and they will know what they're voting for. Because you will have a lot of homeless people if taxes keep going up with senior citizen, you know, because they just can't afford it. They're on a fixed income, and even your people that are working, they're not making enough money to be able to afford it. So I thank you guys for listening.
Thank you. Next is Reverend Jerome Council.
Praise the Lord. Good morning, Commission, Henry, and all of the commissioners, Elena Reese, my District 1, and to each of you and all of my fellow citizens of Clayton County. I'm Jerome Council, pastor and chaplain. I just want to echo the sentiment of every one of these voices that's come up here. because obviously I'm a senior citizen. And I looked at my taxes the last 3 years, and I told my wife, I said, before we came here, I said, pray to God that we don't have to lose our home. Because we were going to decide to move back to Alabama a few years ago, and I said, the way it is now, we probably were going to lose our home. And I know a lot of these factors, you don't control them, like the economy and stuff like that. But this county puts trust in you guys that if you don't know, that you go get the right people to advise you on both options so that your vision says this is in the best interest of all of the residents, from the youngest to the oldest, the least to the greatest. And so thank you for what you're doing. And I believe that this county trusts you to make the best interest of all of the residents of here. And I'm just grateful to be a citizen of Clayton County. When I first moved to Atlanta back in 2008, everybody said, you don't want to move to Clayton County because it's trouble. And I said, well, I told my wife, I said, we can't go by whatever folks say. You have to go based on where God is leading you. And I still believe that God led me to Clayton County because I love the people and I love the resources we have. I'm praying for all of you, and I keep you in our prayers, as well as all of my neighbors in Clayton County. So to God be the glory, and keep on keeping on.
Thank you, Reverend Counsel. Next is Serena Lewis. Okay, thank you. All right. Next is Rod, and is it Rod? I can't understand the last name. Is there a Rod? All right. Or Ronald? All right. Next is Deitrice Fulton.
I thought it was the sign-in sheet, but okay. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for having us. My name is Deitrice Fulton, and I live in Jonesboro. What I have to say is I'm a senior, like everybody else here. I'm retired, and I'm on a fixed income. But what it is my mortgage, my escrow, and my taxes all work together. So I did get a letter that my mortgage is going up almost $200 because of the taxes. And that hurt. But I'm just asking you to please help us, look out for us, and just keep us in your prayer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Dodger. Next is Tina Jones. Tina Jones. Next is Gwendolyn Pressberry. Gwendolyn Pressberry. And then lastly, I have Letitia Smith. All right.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Letitia Lee Smith. I live in Jonesboro. I've been in Jonesboro since 2004. When I purchased my house, it was $154,900. Back in 2008, when everybody was losing their house because of all these taxes and what we're trying to deal with now, they lost it. Praise God, I kept mine. I've been working in the nursing field for a long time. I just became disabled 4 years ago. I can't even lift my arm up. But the thing is, I didn't want to be on disability. I didn't know this was going to happen. This is a freak accident, right? So I can't afford the taxes this year, last 4 years. I can't afford it. I don't want to be unemployed. I would love to be working, but I can't. So I think it's unfair for some of us that we have to continue to pay taxes. So my home was $154,900. So last year they told me my house went up to $260,000. Who said that? Where'd that come from? I'm trying to understand some things here. Nobody asked me what I think my value is. How do you come up with that value? And then you tell me because my neighbor, well, I don't have a fireplace. They do. That's not, it's funny, but it's not funny because I can't afford it. This is my passion. I really can't afford it. You know, and I really, we need you guys to come on in and help us. And I say no, opt out. Opt out. We can't afford, and floating means it can be anything. So it might be $5 a day and $500 tomorrow. Who wants floating? Nobody wants no floating. Baby, we tired. I know I am. I'm 60 years old. I'm tired. I'm tired. And we can't afford another tax. You know it. I mean, I don't make $100 and something thousand a year. These people, they can say, I can afford to lose one fire truck. I can afford to lose one ambulance. Because guess what? We're all taking care of ourselves now. We're Googling how to take care of our bodies. Hello? Hello? So I don't need another ambulance. We don't need another county car. We don't need another police car. We don't need everything is already here. Let's utilize what we have. I'm sick of this stuff. I'm sick of it. And every year I got to come up and beg, I'm on disability. Can you please lower my taxes? That's not who I was born to be, a beggar. I'm a lender and not a borrower. And I decree and declare that in Jesus' name. But I will not pay no more taxes. This is it, man. We need some help. We need some help. And I know we all need help. That's why we're here. I can't pay another 2 cents. 2 cents, man, every time I turn around, you upping everything. And I don't have a husband. I'm single. And I'm trying to make it in. I'm trying to pay everybody on time. But I can't because every time I turn around, this done went up. My insurance just went up. My water just went up. You know, my power just went up. And I can't afford it. You know how much they just gave us this year, what gave me? They only gave me $100 extra in my disability. That's all I got. At least I got it, yes, but then they want it.
Miss LeSimmons, keep
I'm
your comments
sorry,
to the board.
because
Keep them to the
I
board.
have to let them know.
Thank you.
Don't give that slick, because that little $100 is not going to help my taxes. Okay? It's not going to help my taxes. So please, 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 help us out.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I want to say.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming out today. This concludes our hearings. At this time, we're going to, do we have a need for executive session? All right. So at this time, I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
All right. Can I get a second?
Second. I have the question for discussion.
Any discussion at this time?
Thank you. For any individuals who are still in the room who did not sign up, will they still be allowed the opportunity to speak for the hearing?
No, ma'am. We have another session tonight, and they can speak tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions at this time? All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it, and the motion passes. Thank you, and you all have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.